What would you do with your life if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you do if you fully believed in the God that gave you the dream and fully believed in the person that you see in the mirror? What would be possible for your life? Calling and comfort zones are enemies. You want to do the thing that God has called you to do? It will never happen in your safety net. It will never happen in your safe place. You're going to have to leave some things. You're going to have to let go of some things. You can either walk the path that other people walked, or you can walk on water. You can't do both. Jesus walked with 12 disciples. Only one got off the boat to walk with him, ever. You got to live in the impossible places. What does that mean? It's stop going where everybody else has gone to do what you've been called to do. Stop doing what everybody else has done just because it's worked before. And the friction you're running up against is because you're trying to do it how they did it, be who they were, follow the process that was never ordained for you. Your number one tool in this next season of your life is going to be your ability to live in the impossible places long enough for God to show you what's possible.
Please, Lord, help me get one more. Help me get one more.
As we see a guy by the name of Private Desmond Doss. He grew up in a very religious household, and he grew up, his mom was telling him these stories about Cain and Abel, and he saw what happened in that interaction, and he heard the Lord say to him, "You will never take a life, you will save it." And so he knew that he was to enlist into the army during World War II, not to take lives, but to save it. And at that time, that was a taboo thing. How many of you know that when you join the army or armed service, like, you expected to bust guns somewhere? Like, you expected to stab somebody, poke somebody in the eye or something, step on their foot. And Private Doss was like, no, I want to run into battle when everybody else is running out and save some people. And so his instructors and his leaders began to ridicule him and put him on Front Street because he wanted to do it different. And he said, no, I know you're about to put me in jail. I know my fellow rackmates and soldiers have beat my behind in the middle of the night because I don't want to do it how they do it, because I'm not called to do it how they do it. And they began to ridicule me for doing exactly what God told me to do. It's okay. I'm going to stay right where I am. I'm going to step up to the plate and do what I was called to do, come hell or high water. You can beat me down, but you can never break my spirit. And Private Doss, he passes boot camp, and he goes on trial for being what's called a conscientious objector, somebody who does not believe in touching a weapon or taking lives. And so lo and behold, they allow him to do what everybody else thinks is crazy, and that's to go into World War II, in the Battle of Okinawa, Hacksaw Ridge, and go in there with no gun. You saw the bombs, explosions, and body parts. How many of you running in there with no weapon? Formed against you shall prosper. Huh? How many of you running there? I'm not running in no Hacksaw Ridge with no weapon. You gonna give me a water gun or something? Do you understand? Right? And so here's the thing that I love about Private Doss. He goes up on the mountain, and they said that this was one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. This was one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. And all the people who were big, bad, and tough, who had their chest poked out, who beat Private Doss in the middle of the night for being different, for standing flat-footed on what God called them to do, they began to get their limbs and arms and everything blown to pieces. And guess who comes to save their little behinds? The one who was called to do it differently. The one who heard what God said and decided not to compromise, regardless of what the penalty was. He decided not to compromise what God called him to do. And because he did not compromise, Private Doss ended up winning the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor, if you don't know, is the highest military award in the United States of America for bravery and acts of courage. Private Doss, in one night, over a 12-hour period, ended up saving 75 soldiers by his own hands. No weapon, no gun. The legend says that he was bruised, battered, and fractured, and he still, what you saw in the clip was his actual prayer. The whole night he was praying this one prayer: Lord, help me get one more. That was his prayer. Lord, help me get one more. And I came to tell somebody today that God has called you to step up to the plate, to do something that nobody else is willing to do it like nobody else is willing to do it. And your prayer should be, Lord, help me to get one more. It don't matter if I'm surrounded by enemies all around. Lord, help me to get one more. Thing I love about this story about Private Desmond Doss, it reminds me of Gideon. Let me give you some context around Gideon. Gideon was just a regular dude threshing wheat in a wine press. How many of you know that's not exactly where you're supposed to be threshing wheat, in a wine press? The Word of God says that because the people of Israel started worshiping idols, God took his hands off of them, and he allowed the Midianites to enslave and to put a tax on the people of Israel because they forgot what God had did for them when he took them out of captivity. And so don't ever get into a place where God takes his hands off of you. Don't ever get to a place where you forget the receipts of what God did. Come on, we crying about what he has yet to do, but I need you to go backwards and look at what God did for you today, right? Gideon finds himself threshing wheat in a wine press, feeling like the least of these. And he's there because if he were to thresh wheat out in the open, the Midianites would come and snatch all of their crops and snatch all of their fruit. So he's literally hiding from the oppressor. And so Gideon is sitting there, and he's down in the dumps, and the angel of the Lord comes and finds Gideon right where he is, and he says, Gideon, get your butt up. I have called you man of valor to lead this war, to do what I've called you to do, and to lead a group of men to defeat the Midianites. I have come to favor you. That's where we find Gideon in this chapter. And Gideon was saying to the Lord, and many of us do, God, I'm not enough. Have you ever found yourself in a place? Or it's just me. God, I'm not enough. You must have the wrong person. I am Ira E. Davis. You must be looking for Ira O. Davis or something. You got the wrong somebody. They told me this week my middle name looked like it should be Lemuel. So you must be looking for Lemuel. You got the wrong person. And Gideon was saying, I am not enough and I don't have enough. Some of us, we've been praying against the very thing that God has already called you. God is calling you mighty man, woman of valor, and you're saying, no, I am the least of these. God, you must have made a mistake when you came knocking on my door. The greatest sign of disrespect to God is when you tell him he got the wrong person. God said, if I co-signed it, it's as good as done. When I came knocking for you, I knew exactly who I wanted, when I wanted it, how I wanted it, and I knew the hell you would have to go through to be able to birth it, but I still called you. But God, I haven't cleaned it up yet. God, I'm still a mess. I'm still doing things that I should not be doing. God said, don't worry about it. I still called you mighty man of valor. God says, in your moving, in your active, yes, I will cleanse you of all unrighteousness. I will renew your mind. I will shape you into the man or woman that I've called. In your active, yes. Point number one is this. Stop acting like where you are and start acting like who he says you are. Stop acting like where you are. Yeah, I know you might be broke right now, but that's not who he called you. Yeah, I know you might be going through some things at your home, but that's not who you are, that's where you are. How many of you know your location, your position, and your circumstances change? But the word of your life never changes. It never changes. Stop acting like where you are. And some of you need to stop dressing like where you are and start dressing like who he called you to be. Come on, it's time for a level up in 2024. Start dressing like who he called you to be, not where you are. Write this down. If you're going to have an active yes in 2024, and Prophetess Crystal was all in my message this morning with the march around the church. I'm like, girl, you must have seen the video. Got y'all out here marching. If God's going to call you to do something, to participate in his kingdom plan, number one, you have to stop hiding. You've got to stop hiding. Some of you are like, no, but I'm in church this morning. You still hiding. You got to stop hiding. Some of us are hiding behind the circumstances. God, I don't have the money to do what you said do. Stop hiding. God, I don't know the right people. Stop hiding. God, I've never done it before. Stop hiding. God, it's too big for me. Stop hiding. Gideon, stop hiding. I've called you to do something that requires you to get out of a place of hiding and get to a place of obedience. Stop hiding. You've been misidentified. That's why you went into hiding. Somebody called you outside of your anointing, and you went into hiding. No. They don't get to say what God says. The thing I love about this story is the angel of the Lord came into the place of hiding to find him, to say, get your butt up. I've called you to do something. Oh, God came to your address today to say, get your butt up. I've called you mighty man or woman of valor. You have purpose. You have a call on your life. You have something that I've called you to do. I understand what the resume says. I understand what the people said about you at the last place you were. But what did I say? What did I say? If you're going to have an active yes, you have to come out of hiding. Number 2, write this down. If you want to come out of a place of just being passive and moving into an active yes, is literally you have to stand firm in your yes. You have to stand firm in your yes. One of the things that I loved about Gideon is even though he was unsure of himself, and if you read further along in the book of Judges chapter 6, we see that Gideon was like, Lord, is this really you calling me? I need to test you. I need to put out a fleece, and I need you to make a wedge. I need you to do all these tests. How many of us put all these tests? God, if you do this, that, and the other by Monday, then I'll go over there and do that thing. Oh, y'all fake. Y'all fake. God, if they call me, then I'll do it. If they DM me on Instagram personally and call me by my nickname from childhood, then I know it's you. But Gideon said, God, if you call me to it, then I know it's a sure thing. And some of us, we have not given God a sure yes. We've given him a shaky, wishy-washy yes. We're like, God, if it works, I'll stay in it, but if not, I'm going to leap right back out. So I'm not willing to dive headfirst into what you've called me to do because it requires me to let go and burn the nets and to burn the boats and to go all in. God, I'm willing to take a small step of faith instead of a giant leap of faith. And God says, I need you to stand firm on your yes if I'm going to do the impossible through your life. For some of you, literally the distance between fruit and where you are is a shaky yes.
Oh my God.
When you become sure that who God says he is and what he has called you to do is final, no matter what you see with your natural eyes, then things begin to change. Point number 3 is this. Do exactly what God said do. Hear me. Don't do what God said do. Do exactly what God said do. Some of you in this room are some of the greatest visionaries and leaders in the world. The problem is you won't see the fruit. It's because you're doing it how the industry told you should do it. No, you singing a worship song like everybody else, and that's not what God called you to do. No, you preaching the message like everybody else. That's not what God called you to do. You started a church like everybody else. That's not what God called you to do. You're doing creative arts, and that's not how God, you're supposed to be a nurse, and you're still not supposed to do it how everybody else is supposed to do it. The problem is you can have a shaky yes and not do exactly what God called you to do, and you could miss the mark. And many of us in the body of Christ, we have some of the largest fruit to be produced in the earth, just like Gideon did. But if Gideon did not follow God's instructions, he would have missed the mark. Here's what God told Gideon to do. He said, look, I'm going to deliver the Midianites into your hands. I know you have an army of 30,000 men, but I want you to get it down to 300 men. I don't know about you. I ain't going to battle with 300 people. It ain't happening. Surely ain't. It ain't happening. And so my first question for God is, are you crazy or am I crazy? Which one? Because you're about to send me to do a big thing in a crazy place, a crazy way. It's just me. It's just my life. You sending me to do a big thing in a crazy way, in a crazy place. Come on, when God first told me, he's like, listen, I'm calling you to speak life into pioneers, visionaries, and world changers. And by the way, you got to start diving out of planes and start baptizing them at 13,000 feet, teaching them what real faith looks like, how to step into the impossible with the I am possible. I said, God, there has got to be another way. It's got to be another way. And I don't know if you know, but people that look like me don't just go diving out of airplanes. You feel me? But here's what God said to me. If you don't do it exactly how I said do it, the world will ignore you. And some of you have watered down your yes. You say, God, you said 300? Let me get 10,000. God said, no, I said 300. Yeah, let me get 1,500. And God said, no, I said 300. 350? Going once? Going twice? No, God said, do it exactly how I said do it. And the story says that Gideon and his 300 men end up defeating the Midianites with trumpets and glass jars. Trumpets and glass jars. And some of you are praying and fasting for things. God said if you would just be obedient and do it how I said do it, you would be able to get up off your face. But you refuse to follow the instructions. See, some of us want to look at the instructions but not follow them. I put together a rocking chair for my pregnant wife the other day, and I'm like, I don't need these instructions. How many of you know after I had to pull the thing off the thing and pull the thing off the thing and pull the thing off the thing, I said, man, I should have read the dang instructions. Now I done built something. I don't know what it is. It's something, but it ain't a rocking chair. And some of you have built something unto God, and you don't know what it is. God don't know what it is because you ain't read or followed the instructions. You don't need the money you think you need if you follow the instructions. You don't need the people you think you need if you would follow the instructions. Come on. He said 300, not your preference. He said 300, not what everybody else in the real estate agency is doing. He said 300, not what everybody else in the film industry is doing. He said 300. But we so scared to do what God said do. We scared to do what God said do. I remember when we first started taking people to dive out of airplanes, somebody said on LinkedIn, I can't believe that God will say to take people diving out of airplanes because they could die. And I was in my feelings. How many of you know I was in my feelings? And I was, and this is how it was with the phone screen. I'm like, man, I come through this screen. Say another word. And I just replied back. I said, actually, according to research, more people die every day in cars than they do diving out of airplanes. I'm going to do what God said do. And how many do you know? Do you know that because of my obedience, explicit obedience, that God has taken me places that I never thought I would be. He has opened doors that could have never been opened if I would have just stand flat-footed and preached like everybody else. And some of you, you are so close to what God has promised you. But because you are 1 degree off of obedience, because you are 1 degree off of doing exactly what he said do, you are going to drown in the flood that the ark should have been able to hold you in. Because you won't build it to specification. And why won't we build it to specification? Because I don't know what the pastor gonna think. Because the church is not ready for what God has put on the inside of me. So I'm going to build a version of it so that I can get invited by other churches to come do what I do if it meets the protocol. Woo! That's the thing I love about Maverick City Music. They say, no, we're going to do it the way God said do it. And if you like it, you can have some. If you don't, oh well. I came to talk to some world changers today who are tired of playing games with people. Your assignment is not unto man. Your assignment is not unto people. This is not a popularity contest, kingdom culture. Your obedience is your reasonable service. And when you are not doing what he said do, how he said do it, you are being disobedient with your life. You can give all the offerings you want. You can come to all the prayers you want. But if you are not following his instructions, you will not see the fruit that he promised. Some of you are like, God, I don't have what I need to do what you say do. Yeah, truth be told, you already have what you need in your hand. You already have what you need in your hand. So my challenge for you today is begin to look at what you already have. You've already counted and discounted it out. No, it don't work because you try to use it like her. You try to use it like him. But if you use it how God gave it to you, it is going to do more and above and beyond all that you can ask or think. So I'm challenging you today, like Private Doss. He went into battle with no weapon. That boy crazy. But he stood on business. He stood on business. He said, yeah, you can punch me, but I know what my God said. Yeah, you can beat me down, but I know what my God said. Yeah, you can kick me and try to kick me out, but I know what my God said. Actually, I'm not here for a pat on the back. I'm here to save lives. And some of you need to start walking in this building. You need to start walking through life and say, no. I'm not here for a reputation. I'm here on an assignment. Somebody had to check me the other day. I was like, ooh, that kind of hurt. They checked me the other day and they said, Pastor Ira, you're not at Kingdom Culture to conform to the culture. You're here at Kingdom Culture to call it to another level. I said, ooh, so you mean I can't make covenant with the past? I can't be like the rest? And she's like, no. God came to get you, to position you here because we needed something different. And some of you think you're just at your job. No. You're on assignment because they need something different. Some of you think you just started a business because you were great at that. No. Your industry, the world needed something different. And the reason why God told Gideon to do what he did, the way that he did it, is because God wanted to show us that he can do all things through Christ who strengthens. God wanted to show us that if you would let me outside of the box of religion, if you would let me outside of the box of religion, I can do something you've never seen before. Some of you, it's time for you to let God out of the box of religion. Come on, I'm having church at the skydiving drop zone. I'm praying for people. I'm pouring scriptures into their head as we go to 13,000 feet. It's loud as all get out, and I'm in their ear like, remember Hebrews 11:6, without faith, it's impossible to please God. You want to talk about walking on water? Let's go get some. And some of you need to let God outside of the box that we put him in. We've gotten so accustomed to 3 songs and offering and a word that you don't know what it looks like when God steps outside of that. And this is why the church is 20 years behind. And God is saying, I am bigger than what you have boxed me in to be. I say this and I close. God says, do it with the 300. The answer is yes. If God says do it differently, the answer is yes. God says be active, a participant in this covenant community and what he's doing in the kingdom. The answer is yes. So as we end this series on being active in what God has called us to do as a house, the answer, if you don't remember anything anybody else said, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Stop waiting on that person to your left or to your right to do what God called you to do. We're waiting for the people on our row to step up and do what they call. No. You be the example that God has called. Gideon got called out of that wine press to lead an army. How many of you ever heard of anybody going from baking bread to leading an army? Nobody. What is God calling you from that seems like too big of a jump? God, you don't understand. All I do here is sweep floors. No. I'm taking you to the next level. Get up from that wine press. Get up from that place of hiding. Get up from where you are. God, I'm just a student. God is like, no. You are a student now, but that's not who you're going to always be. God, I'm unemployed. Yeah, that's who you are now, but that's not who I've called you to be. God, I'm just a musician. Yeah, you think so, but you're about to play in front of the nations. The answer is yes.